Put your deaf aid in, Tony.
Pardon?
Okay, well, let's crack on. Welcome everyone to the Monday the 25th of April Parish Council meeting via remote link with Zoom and also streaming live on YouTube. Thanks very much to Keith in particular, and who've done a lot of work, and others who've supported. I think let's crack on with the agenda. The only one, Anthony, the only one that I think we had on the parishioners' question time so far, as I know it, John, is the one from Abington I've just seen online, which is about, have we noticed that there seems to be more HGVs coming through the village lately?
That's the only question I'm aware of, Nick, at the moment.
I personally, although I've seen a lot of farm vehicles, big long trailers with cattle and sheep movements, I've not noticed a lot of, I don't know if anybody's got any other views.
To be honest, I did think the other day that there were a few more HGVs.
Do you know what sort of companies? Were they local companies, Jules, or?
They were those dumper trucks.
Yeah, and the Bucks recycling ones are still present. And I guess because the HS2 work's going ahead, I suspect there's been a few of those going through for that purpose. I might be wrong.
Excuse me, I was up at the allotment today and about 3 Bucks recycling went past this afternoon in the 2 hours I was up there.
Mm-hmm.
Before coronavirus, I had sort of mooted the suggestion, because there is you recall we were going to have a discussion with the Bucks Transport Forum that we should be thinking about doing another survey. It's about 2.5, 3 years since we've done one. So I think once life's back to normal, we should implement that fairly quickly, because it is a little bit tricky, you know, relying on anecdote, because when we're, I mean, I've certainly, my view is, in answer to the question is, yeah, I mean, Bucks Recycling is still alive and well. In theory, if they are on HS2 work, they're not supposed to come through the village, but so whether they are HS2 work, I don't know. But I think once we're able to do it, we should update our records, because that's really the requirement for us, is to have robust information over a day, or in fact we did 3 different surveys a couple of years ago, so we should update that. But my personal view is Bucks Recycling are definitely alive and well, but I don't sense any more vehicles.
John, thanks, John. John Lewis, you comment?
Yeah, so what I was going to say was that I would agree that we should update that survey just to make sure we've got up-to-date information. That's kind of all about understanding the problem. I think if I can try and answer what Tony's question might be, which is what's actually happening about it, I guess the answer is in 2 parts, really. One is the Bucks freight strategy, which is an evolving document stroke philosophy. I don't think we've got any updates on exactly where that is or what it might achieve. Probably been kicked into the long grass due to the change to the Unitary Council. And the other part of the answer might be our own thinking on doing something about that junction there, which again is an action that I believe I have at the moment, which is to sort of reintroduce us all to the conclusions of the study, and so we can get on to thinking what to do about it. And I've been conscious for a while that I need to get on and do something about that, and we'll try to do so in the near future.
Okay, in the meantime, guys, chaps, do you think we should, John Howard, do you think we should, given the lockdown still is carrying on, do you think we should try and get some form of a brief survey going in the next week or 2 with a couple of people just a couple of meters apart, just registering on the main Winchenden sort of Chearsley rat run? Is that
Yeah.
worth kicking off?
I mean, my only concern is that I'm very conscious that we should not be seen to be breaching any social distancing guidelines, and I don't know what anybody else feels about that. I mean, in theory, we don't have to, but we're only supposed to go out once a day, aren't we? And
it's not as part of the list of valid reasons to leave your home, is it?
not really, no.
And also maybe if we're doing that kind of survey at this point, when there actually are less vehicles on the road, it might do us that might be a bad thing for us.
Yeah, that's a very good point too.
Yeah. There was supposed to be
I suppose
a strategy meeting, I believe, which we were trying to host, and it never happened. Was there ever an agenda for that, or anything that came out, or is it just nothing?
Not really. It was put on ice, I think, Martin, from memory. Once COVID kicked in,
Right.
It was going to be held at Stone, or
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Rather than it didn't the dates we offered hosted, as you rightly say.
Yeah.
But
So
I think the whole thing was put on ice.
So shall we minute to now the comments by Tony Babington, and also agree that we should review it ASAP as soon as we're freed up to do so. And the only other thing that crossed my mind, is it worth dropping the people from Bucks Recycling a note to see or ask them whether there is increased activity, and is there a particular reason?
Well, I think it's because there's the dumps aren't open, and in Bucks particularly, they're not emptying any of the brown bins, so everyone's got more waste.
That's true.
It's not on the agenda, but I know, Julia, you raised that. We should have a discussion about it later on.
Yeah, I was going to put it in items for extra discussion.
Could I just suggest in relation to your suggestion, I think probably worthwhile just writing just to confirm that they haven't got any HS vehicles coming through the village. If that was the understanding, they shouldn't be, just to clarify that we're onto the case, basically.
I'm very happy to put together a letter if I'll circulate a draft.
Great.
Yeah, I think that at least we can be not accused. Well, at least we can't be accused of doing nothing. And I think to the point that Jules made, which I accept, the reverse is true in a sense, because by recording at a time when there's less vehicles on the road, we might actually highlight the amount of the vehicles on the road that we don't want. But I'm happy to go with the letter, John, but let's at least move that forward.
I would prefer, of course, to sending a letter which actually had, documentation, because I think we can only refer to anecdotal information. But I mean, there's no harm in asking the question as long as we do it carefully. And
yeah, I agree.
I'd rather
just ask the confirmation that there are no vehicles from HS2 coming through the village.
Exactly. Yeah. Let me bash together a draft.
Thanks, John. Any other points from parishioners that are noted? I have no more at the moment, so
Nothing on the YouTube feed.
okay.
Bear in mind they're 20 seconds behind us, sir, but I've seen nothing come up.
Okay. Apologies for absence. I don't think there are any apologies. Helen?
No, I've not received any apologies.
Any declarations of interest?
Nope.
No.
The whistle. Approval of the minutes from the 17th of March.
They all look fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Paul, Paul and who?
Sorry?
I'll second.
Second, John Lewis. Paul proposed. Sign it away on the card, Helen. Matters arising from the previous minutes. Any matters arising, Helen?
So there was only a couple of action points. So the first one's about the horse chestnut trees, but I think that's going to be brought up later, isn't it?
Yeah.
And the next one is about communicating with the community. John Lewis and Keith to meet to work on rationalising the various distribution lists for village communications.
So we've met lots of times on just about everything except that, I would say.
So I'll just carry that forward.
Virtually, I hope.
Virtually, yeah.
Okay, Helen.
The planning has got a yellow line through it. We'll cover that under planning, be sensible, wouldn't it? There's two planning. Yeah.
Okay. Coronavirus pandemic update. I think, John, you might be able to. Well, I think you may have circulated. You should have circulated it, haven't you?
Yes, I have.
Sorry,
I think.
Sorry, I thought you were still on the minutes of just the last item brought forward. It's got the yellow line through it, just for confirmation. The oak tree has now been planted, and somebody's very kindly organised a watering schedule, which I thought was very impressive, particularly for John and myself, who are down the bottom end of the village, have been left off the rota. So thank you very much indeed for that. And also the work finally in the churchyard has now been completed, and the work in School Lane likewise completed. So it's good to see all the tree matters dealt with.
Yeah, I'll give you a call, Paul. I meant to get back to you today. I'll give you a call about the Rosedale.
Yep.
I think are there two outstanding ones on the village hall, the walnut trees, I think.
Yeah, if you remember, that's if you
That's
read
gonna
it,
be
that can't be
later.
done until June, July. They shouldn't be pruned until then. Sorry, but it was the update. The matters outstanding and not outstanding apart from what's done at the moment. Yep. Okay.
Brilliant, thanks, Paul. Okay, John, pandemic, Susan.
So I think the main item of business under this heading is to formally adopt the revised standing orders, which enable us to hold this meeting and gives effect to the various other measures that we've brought as a result of the virus. And all of them being in line with the regulations that the government made a week or 2 weeks ago.
Right.
The relevant documents are on the website if anybody wants to look at them. I think all members have seen them. I think you've all seen the revised standing orders.
Yeah.
And if there's, I mean, we can talk about it, or if there's no questions or comment, then I would just move that we adopt them.
I think they're well, personally, I think they're great, John. Thanks for the hard work. And I certainly have got nothing to add except my support.
Yeah, great.
Great.
Yeah.
So, Helen, for the record then, just confirming that they have been adopted as proposed and submitted by John Lewis on our behalf.
Okay.
Is that okay, John?
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
Maybe carry. Do you want to finish? Shall we carry Susan Holding along, or do you want to?
We could. I suppose it might be an appropriate point to mention Susan's contribution. Yes. Again, I did send round an email about 45 minutes ago. I don't know whether everybody's had a chance to see that.
Yeah.
But it was a message from Susan yesterday, basically in response to my just asking how things are going, and I think everybody would agree that it's an extremely positive report. For those listening on the stream, basically Susan was saying, I'm speaking from memory here because I don't have it up in front of me, but she was saying that it's all going very well. That she's answered about 70 calls for assistance now. The recipients of that Good Samaritan input have been extremely grateful. Apparently, many of the volunteers who have contributed have started to establish direct relationships with the people they've helped. So that's brilliant. It means we don't need to keep going through the coordinator every time they need something. She's got a specialist team going down to Long Pendon surgery on a regular basis to pick up prescriptions. If anybody at all listening isn't aware of that or hasn't taken advantage of it, then she will be very happy for you to do so. As with the surgery, because it means that they can dispense or can issue all of the prescriptions for Chearsley, essentially, in one big bag, if you like, to the courier, who will then come and do the distribution. It means you've got to order beforehand, of course. It doesn't overcome the putting in your request to the surgery, preferably online. But once you've done that, you don't have to go down and pick it up yourself. So I think that's hugely useful for people in the village and also for the surgery itself.
Yep.
So I think that's about it. Or I think she talked about somebody having an oil drum and offering to cart oil around the village if anybody is short of heating oil. And I think there are a couple of other points in there, but essentially she's doing a great job, I would say. It's all running extremely well, and I think we can be very proud of the job she's doing for us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yep.
Sorry, I just had another call rattling around. But no, there weren't. I think I don't know what to say except she's an amazing woman. I've spoken to her now most mornings as she does a circuit around the village with Jeff at a distance, and just I think what she's done and achieved, and she's taken it on the chin, particularly from the early days, John, where I think things were going a little bit getting tough for her with one or two people who were maybe not playing the game properly.
Yeah.
And she's taken it, run with it, organised it, smiled with it, and I mean, believe it or not, even we were walking into Cullington the other day, Nisha and I, and we stopped by Chris Long's house. And if anybody knows Chris Long, he lives on the first house, literally, as you enter into the village itself. The house on the right has been very poorly for a few years, in and out of hospital in London. And he just wanted a chat. He was on his own. And then he said, there's any chance anybody could help me pick my medicine up from Long Crendon. And long story short, I mentioned it to Susan, and she said, yeah, give me the details. I'll get it picked up. I'll put it outside your door. And I was going to take it down. Came back, no medicine, phoned her. Oh, she said, I thought I'd pop in and say hello to him and give him his medicine myself. And I thought, bloody hell,
Yeah.
How lovely. And,
Indeed so.
Oh, sorry, I wax lyrical, but I think people like that are just so precious. And I love the bit you said, John, about these people that are volunteers have now made a relationship work with. So when we come out of this, lovely, people will know each other a lot better.
I think they will, yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, John. Because I know, John, you put a lot of effort into this as well in terms of planning and helping Sue do what she needs to do. Planning, Mr. Bouncer.
Okay, there's just two items to report on. One's on the agenda, the other one isn't. The Longhouse have submitted a slightly revised application, and the Parish Council have opposed. Sorry? Hello? Sorry, did someone speak there? The Parish Council have opposed the application on the basis that we feel the development should be restricted to the footprint of the existing building. The proposed extension would be very large, completely imposing over the next door neighbour's house, which is a grade 2 listed. And we also agree with the heritage comments that the general architectural style, the roofscape and the fenestration are all very unsatisfactory. So we have opposed the application. Just as an adjunct to that, I think, John, you mentioned earlier about the owners of the adjoining property, and it would be very, very useful if they submitted their own views.
Comment.
If they need someone to load it onto the website, obviously we can do it for them. But it seems a shame if they have a very real point they'd like to make that it's not shown, because the local authority do take notice of next door neighbours' concerns, and obviously on this one the extension would block out the light from 3 windows, which virtually takes out all the light into those rooms up the side of the property. Any queries on that, or is that fine?
Just to say, Keith, I was at pains to point that out to him this morning. He said he hadn't commented yet, and I took some trouble to say he really should do.
Yeah, there is a time frame on that as well. So I think the comments that I circulated were unanimous in the view. So we'll have to wait and see how that application proceeds. The second one was just the alteration to the internal layout of the road at 2 to 4 Winchenden Road. And again, we have opposed the proposed changes, which basically involve the main arterial route going into the development, which was deemed is supposed to serve it, but it actually went right through as a full major road. And our concern is that A, it's unnecessary because the land and the buildings behind are already served by another road, and we feel it'd be detrimental to the people living in the new development to have extra through traffic. And we also are very concerned about potential development creep, which tends to occur when you have open roads at the end of sites. So our application, which I think has been approved by everybody, has gone in as an opposition, and that's been lodged. I think that's it on the planning side. Any queries on either of those two?
Did we
No,
not
that's,
have
I
an
think,
application-
sorry, Jules, go on.
No, did we not have an application for a property in Dark Lane, Tidefield?
Yeah,
Yes.
there's three other applications
Yeah.
that have subsequently come in after
Yeah.
the agenda was issued, and the comments are due
Okay.
12th of May.
16th and 15th of May for those three, so before the next parish council meeting.
I think what's happened, Paul, is your performance has gone before you, and all of a sudden you've got a desk full of planning applications coming in.
Well, there are rather a lot, and what's sad is that I suppose our underlying objective is always to try and support the people that are putting applications for their property, but equally, as we've discussed at our meeting, we've got other issues to consider: next door neighbours, overall integrity of buildings, and it's a bit sad that the last 2 or 3 applications we've had to look at have all, we've all felt we needed to oppose. Hopefully we'll run into some more straightforward ones where it seems there's a bit more logic and there's no detriment to adjoining property or the integrity of the building itself. But I will be sending a note out for, I haven't quite worked out how we're going to deal with this. So I've been up to Tidefield, and technically we do need to walk up there and probably have to walk up the driveway one by one. So we'll see where we go on that. But the notices are due back in about a month's time, and I was certainly looking during the course of this week or next week to arrange a site visit for those. Any of those aren't going off playing golf or off the theatre or anything else, which I think probably is very unlikely just at the moment. So I'm expecting a full turnout.
Okay, thanks, Paul. You'll be going nowhere for golf either, by the way.
I know, absolutely, yeah. So that's it on the planning side.
Well done, sir. Brilliant. Okay, correspondence, Helen?
I'm not aware of anything.
Okay, I've not seen anything. Okay, I presume, well, we won't be getting any contributions from them. Did we invite AVDC and Bucks County Council?
I sent the email out to them of the agenda.
Yeah.
I don't know, they possibly wouldn't have had the Zoom instructions.
That's a good point, actually, John. I hadn't thought about that before. It might be a nice touch, Helen, if you could drop them both a note saying what we're doing and how we've moved to this. And although we've sent them the agenda, we apologise that we didn't send them the joining instructions because we'd love them to be here if they can.
Okay.
So just a very simple note saying info and apologies sort of thing.
Yeah.
And then we'll include them on the next round, I think. Is everyone comfortable with that? Yeah, brilliant.
And actually, Nick, what I could probably do, I could add them to our email distribution. I'm sure they'd be interested to get that generally anyway. And then they would
Yeah,
get it along with everybody else.
Yeah, no, I think they would actually. Yeah, great idea. Okay, I think we have the Minister of Finance somewhere in the building. He's not swinging from the rafters.
He's somewhere in a building, certainly.
Robert, the floor is yours.
Thank you. What I have done this time, I've issued a number of separate papers. I've issued my report, I've issued the draft accounts, I've issued a governance statement, and also the financial risk assessment paper. As far as I'm concerned, they're all pretty self-explanatory. What we need to do tonight, please, is to approve the draft account, which currently are with the internal audit. They collected them from my doorstep last week, so hopefully a week or so and they should be back with us. But that should be pretty straightforward. I'm not anticipating any problems, but subject to there being no problem, we then, by we I mean Chairman, you, Helen and myself, we need to countersign them and send them off to the external auditors. So I would like, please, the council to approve the draft accounts and also authorize us to sign the final accounts on their behalf so that we can move it forwards. The external auditors have not really changed anything in the submission deadlines other than the time when we have to publicize the accounts on the notice boards. But that doesn't pose a problem for us at all. What it does do is it gives them a bit more time to get the accounts checked and approved by themselves. So that should go forwards pretty straightforwardly. If everyone's comfortable with that.
Are we going to formally vote and minute that?
I think you should, please, because we need to.
Yeah. Who's proposing?
Robert, I imagine. Oh, well, no, it needs to be
No,
one
I
of us.
can't.
No. Okay. Well, I'm happy to propose. So I think there's two, isn't there? There's a proposal that we adopt the governance statement and the proposal that we adopt the unaudited accounts. Is that what you need, Robert? Or?
Yes.
Yes.
So that would be the proposal.
Although you said are they with Jackie, the internal?
They're with Jackie, yes.
Ah, right, brilliant. That's good. I'm comfortable with that. Is there anybody any problems at all with that? Or?
No, I think that's fine.
No.
So, John, you're proposing. Jules, will you second?
Yeah, I'm happy to second.
Thank you. Thanks, Robert.
The second issue that I need to address is the financial risk assessment document that I put out yesterday.
Yeah.
I've had a number of comments back. What I propose to do with most of those comments is take them on board for next year, because this is meant to reflect where we were when I wrote the paper. But there is the issue of the bank accounts and whether or not the council wants to proceed with another level of check and control in those accounts. And if so, you need to nominate someone, please.
That's the only question I really had in my head, Robert. Apart from increased transparency, is there anything wrong with what we currently do that won't suffice and do the job? That's question one. And the second question is there some instruction that we have to do this?
What we have to do is maintain the account in a proper manner. And that means that we have to put in any controls that we deem to be appropriate. There is no checklist of you've got to do this, you mustn't do that. But essentially, you guys, not me, you guys have to be comfortable that there is sufficient control across the whole of the financial proceedings. To be honest, I think they're okay. I think given the reporting that I do, given the internal audit, the external audit, there is sufficient control. But if you want more, just tell me and I'll put it in place.
Well, I'd be interested in what. Sorry, Keith, over to you.
Yeah, well, because speaking with my village hall treasurer hat on, and becoming aware, I actually hadn't realised before we started having this conversation that Martin Herman has read access because Lloyd's allow delegated. Hello.
You're cracking up on me. Whether can anyone else? Has anyone else got?
No, that's right. He is.
Oh, I've got that as well.
Am I breaking up? Sorry.
Yeah.
Only slightly.
Yeah, you're back
Okay.
now.
I blame my son. Maybe he's on his Xbox.
As long as you've got a good office chair to sit on, Keith.
Yes, thank you very much. What I was saying is Lloyd's make it fairly easy to have a delegated read only. So to address your point, Robert, it doesn't have any, can't make any payments or add any payees, etc. It's just pure read only. As treasurer, I quite like that extra degree of governance that Martin, who's on the village hall committee as well, can look at that. And I like the fact that I've got some extra oversight and he can ask me any questions, etc. So I feel comfortable on that. And I actually wasn't aware that it was fairly easy to do with Lloyd's. I don't know. I can't remember who we bank with, so I don't.
We're Lloyd's.
They're all very much the same, actually, in that respect. Can I just ask a question? I apologise because I only briefly read over it, knowing that others will go into a lot of more detail. But has someone got access to the account? So if, God forbid, something happened to Robert tomorrow, the bank account can be accessed and the checks can be signed and etc.
On the standing file, Paul, all the accounts, the passwords, the entry codes, they're all listed. So there is no person, but the file itself gives all the information.
And someone knows where the file is?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
That is a good point, though, isn't it, Robert? I mean, God forbid you should suddenly get run over by a Bucks recycling lorry tomorrow. But
we'll make a note of it.
I don't know where that information is.
Just come and ask Paul. She'll put it in your hand.
Right. Do you think we should keep a copy logged with the solicitors or the accountant or something?
It should be slightly more robust than that, I think, if I might say.
Whatever you want.
Yeah.
I mean, the whole point about passwords is that they're not widely shared. Everybody knows that. But I think if you put them with an accountant or with a solicitor, that's going to cost money.
I think if they're with the chairman, I would have thought that would be fine. But someone else in the village hall, parish council ought to have all the access information.
I'm quite happy to do that, Paul, Robert, on the basis that if you seal them in an envelope properly for me, I've got a proper safe and alarm system, so I'm more than happy to lock them away.
Yeah.
With instructions in a lockbox somewhere on the wall outside should I get knocked over by a Bucks recycling lorry, so they know where to get into the safe. God.
Well, as long as you and Robert aren't under the same bus or at the same bus stop, we'll be okay.
I think they've sussed us, Robert. They've sussed it.
Actually, you and I and buses, no.
Okay, well, I think, do we need to be careful how we minute this? No, we're not giving any details out, are we? So that's fine.
I don't think
that's fine. That's fine.
So we're just saying that we discussed whether a second person should have access to the bank account, and it was decided that the chairman would have the instructions of how to access the bank account in a sealed envelope in his possession. Yeah.
Well, we do, but I think actually we've got two slightly different things running here.
They are. You're right, John.
That last bit was, if something happens to Robert, how do we get into the bank account? And Nick's answer applies to that. The subject opened with having a second pair of eyes on the account as a matter of routine. And that would have to be a read only or a view only.
And Keith is a supporter of doing that.
Yeah.
Come on, other views.
Okay, so
I mean,
I put my hand up as the one who raised it in the first place, and it was simply one of, we're talking about a risk register, and a risk register by definition is meant to identify risks.
Yeah.
And one that I could see, as I mentioned to Robert, would be that he hand over to a successor next week who proved to be much less reliable than we wished. How do we know that successor isn't going to empty the bank account and walk off with it and tell us on a regular monthly basis that the money is still there? We would never know until it came to light.
I think you've got to do that. I mean, I'm a member of an investment club, and our previous accountant, or the guy in the club that was an accountant, actually had was dementia, very, very low level dementia, but it suddenly became apparent a few months in that there was some irregularities, and the guy had been an accountant for 40 years. And I suppose, the worst case scenario you've got to prepare for on these things, and just say that someone else really ought to have access and ought to be generally looking at it on a regular basis. And maybe the history of the parish council would suggest that might be sensible anyway.
Yeah, I don't think, Paul, I don't think we can introduce our lamentable past when it comes to class.
Well, no, but it's just the lessons learned in terms of...
No, and we will hopefully never go there. But other views then. Yeah, so I think we've got Paul and Keith, you're supporting. John, I think you're sort of supporting, but not.
No, I am supporting, yeah.
All right, okay, 3. Jules?
Yeah, I think it probably makes sense to put it in place now to have a silent observer. Then if the situation comes that we do need to have a new financial officer, then that's already in place, and we're not putting it in place when somebody else comes along, if that makes sense. Not that we're expecting you to go anywhere, Robert, but just
John H.
Future proof.
I see it does no harm and has a possible benefit. So happy to support.
Okay, I'm the odd one out. I guess let's go with it. Absolutely, my own.
Yeah.
Am I trading?
Whole issue of continuity as well, which makes perfect sense. As any business would do.
Yeah. That. I'm sort of trading in the need for security and oversight over bureaucracy, but
no. It's very low
we're
level.
all entitled to a view, young Bow. We're all entitled to a view.
Yeah.
Okay, the motion is carried anyway.
So I think what we need to do, firstly, I think Robert was absolutely right, Robert, if I might say, to make the point that it's crucial that control remains absolutely in and with you and with no one else. So we do need to confirm to start with that it's possible to set up this read-only or view-only facility. From what others have said, it sounds as if that's possible.
I think that's a reasonable assumption.
Okay, so if I suggest that we get that confirmed, and then once confirmed, then almost anybody can have that role.
But who? I mean, the council needs to nominate somebody now.
John Lewis, perhaps is that one for you as a finance man?
Who was that addressed to?
You're right in the middle of my screen, John, so it looks like it's got your name on it. I would have thought, bear in mind you've been involved in the budgeting and whatever, it would seem sensible from a continuity point of view that you're the man to deal with. You're happy to. That would be my view.
Well, okay, yeah, I mean, I don't mind. I'd be happy for anybody else to do it, but if nobody's going to put their hand up, then I guess since I raised the subject.
John Lewis, confirmed. Thank you. Ellen, are you comfortable with what needs to be recorded? And Robert?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've just said that we'll discuss whether a second person should have read-only access to the bank account. First of all, we're going to confirm if that's possible. And if it is possible, John Lewis has agreed to be that second person.
And also, Robert's going to hand me over.
Yeah, so I've got the instructions on how to access the bank account to be given to Nick Brown in a sealed envelope for him to hold.
So doesn't it make sense? Does it make more sense that John should have it?
John,
rather-
yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Now that he's confirmed as the overlord.
Oh, my word.
I bet you wish you hadn't raised it now.
Yeah, I take it all back.
So, Robert,
We-
I think
well,
that
yeah,
documentation needs to wing its way towards my learned colleague over here on the right.
Sorry, Nick, on the basis that John's got access anyway, then surely the passwords and everything, it could be in place anyway. So that's the information that would otherwise.
No.
It's more
a different
detailed.
level of-
It's different high level. Okay.
Actually, I would argue the reverse. If John is got oversight, he shouldn't have access to the
Okay.
access codes.
Probably.
I think
true,
it's better.
Right, my screen completely froze, so I've missed whatever happened when I stopped speaking.
I think broadly we've agreed that John is going to take over, obviously, the oversight of the accounts, but also
No,
No,
he's
No.
got, I'm still going to
Yeah.
be the
I think so.
I've got a background.
Sorry.
And I'm going to be the holder of the passwords and the documentation sealed away.
Yeah.
Keep
Okay.
All right. Got out of that one, JL. Okay, good.
Two other points, if I may, Nick.
Yes.
We've just hit financial risks on the head, but somebody needs to be doing the same for all the other risks that the council has,
Such as
somebody being damaged on council property, IT failures, you name it, illness.
So are you saying we need to do some sort of risk analysis?
Yeah, I mean, the risk analysis is not just finance, it's everything that the council touches.
So can
So,
we do one already for the insurance?
sorry, Jules, go on, Jules.
No, sorry to interrupt. Didn't we do a risk assessment for particularly, obviously not for everything, but for the
Asset management.
Assets. Yeah.
asset.
It has to be done every year.
But is that
or updated every year?
what Jules has just said, Robert? Is that not what we should be doing in line? It's the asset register. Can we not
Yeah.
tie?
But finance doesn't control the assets, it records the assets.
But my point is, could we link the two somehow when we do the work?
Somebody needs to, but that's not finance.
Well, we've
So,
got some.
Did I
Keith,
offend you?
sorry, Keith, go on.
Yeah, I sent round some examples of a risk register because I think that's what we need, a risk register which just covers finance, IT, etc. And there's some great templates and examples from other councils. So I think I'm prepared to have a crack with it if John L will support me.
I'm sorry, Keith, I haven't read or even seen it for some reason. What did it come as? Register?
That I sent some examples of risk registers filled in by various councils around the country.
Okay.
You know, an arbitrary Google, to be honest. And there was one that I particularly good that I pointed out. So I'm prepared to have a crack at it because it's the sort of thing, you know, done before at a corporate level.
Brilliant, Keith. Can we, as I say, could we then tie in the update the asset list at the same time, Robert?
The asset list is permanently updated.
That sounds contradictory. Permanently updated. Got every
Yes.
Regular.
day.
As a continuum.
It's kept permanently up to date.
Okay, great.
Okay, permanently up to date.
I think, Nick, what I would suggest is that the any risks associated with the assets would be part of the list that Keith is going to pull together.
Yeah.
I think that's probably the better way of doing it rather than try and tie it into the finance.
Yeah. Well, we wait and see what Keith pulls together, and then if there's anything missing, put it in there. But let's assume it's all going to be covered.
Yeah.
Thank you, gentlemen. Helen, are you okay with that?
Yeah, so can I just confirm, so the financial risk assessment document that Robert circulated around, is that agreed or adopted or whatever we want to say?
Yes, I thought we'd agreed.
I'm just confirming that.
Yes. if we're accepting this risk we've been talking about this evening, I don't know whether that got put on there or not, Robert, did it?
Well, no, because when I wrote it, that was not the situation. And
No.
this is as at the year end.
Okay.
So that wasn't the case.
Okay, so
As I said, it will be incorporated next year into next year's risk.
right. So let's adopt the document that Robert sent round. Well, we probably have done already, as it stood at 31st March, and then we'll update it for the current year with what we've just been talking about.
Okay, Helen.
Yeah. So the document that's circulated is agreed and it's to be updated. Okay.
Yeah, in the new financial year. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, may I change the subject?
Yes.
Entirely? Just to register with everyone that I'm still paying on your behalf the rent for the village hall. I assume that's okay. And it's not exactly going to break us, but it is still being paid, even though we're not using it.
Well, I may have to reconsider that, Keith.
Is that the £12 per month, Robert?
No, it doesn't
Yes,
matter.
it is. Yes.
Every penny counts in
Happy to refund that.
No. I'm not suggesting you should.
I don't know. Hang on a second. Don't go giving it away here, Robert. Is that plus VAT?
I'll give
There
you
is
a
no
credit. I'll give you a credit. How about that? Credit.
Okay,
No.
village hall tick for now.
Indeed.
Come the revolution. Any reports from councillors sneaking out to attending meetings in outside organisations?
I deny that completely.
Yeah.
Chance
No,
would be a fine thing.
I don't think there was anywhere. Subcommittee decisions for ratification, John.
Right, yes. I would like to introduce the Village Trust Subcommittee, please,
Oh, yeah.
which has been operational for the last month, on and off. And hand over to Sheepy, who is with us this evening, to give an update on what's been going on.
Thanks,
Good evening,
John.
Sheepy.
Good evening, or thank you, John. So the Village Trust has been dormant for a number of years. About 2 years ago, Claire Lazaruk and I tried to engage with the bank to get the trust up and running again, and filled in some paperwork to make some headway, and we thought we made great headway. However, subsequent engagements with, and it's nationwide, have drawn a blank in terms of releasing the funds that are held in the account to allow us to move on with the trust. By my assessments, there's about £1,200 in the account, although the bank hasn't formally confirmed that with me, but I think it's about 1,200. I'm basing that on old minutes and rough incomes and outgoings from the trust over the years. We haven't got any up-to-date paperwork for the trust. There's some old minutes and there's some old checks, so we know exactly what the bank account number is and sort code, but yet with all that information, we still can't have the trust released to us and the funds. So therefore, in order to progress this, having spoken to the bank, there are a couple of routes open to us. One is to apply to the bank using the recorded signatories that the bank still have for the trust. And one of those signatories is Alan Whiffin. And so the bank's details that they're able to release to me go back as far as when Alan was a trustee. And they'd happily accept a letter from us with Alan as a signatory explaining the situation and using that as a form of justification for the release of the funds. And in parallel with that, they suggested that we drew up some new terms of reference for the trust. In parallel with that work, I've been speaking with Nick and John about how to best move this forward. And John has done a great job in drafting a new, fresh deed for the trust. But in order to move this forward, until such time as we're able to have the current funds released from the bank, we're proposing actually setting up a new trust with a peppercorn sum of money in the fund of, say, £1, with new trustees, and to draw up formal governance structures to allow us to move forward. On the basis of having a new formal document, which would be ratified by the parish council and signed off by the 5 new trustees, we'd be able to then send that alongside a letter to the bank signed off by Alan Muffin and indeed probably Nick as the chair of the council, explaining what we put in place by way of a new trust, but also explaining that, giving all the details that we have of the existing trust and why we would respectfully request the funds currently held by the bank are released for the village to use to good effect. So that's the approach we propose to take. There's a new deed. Well done, John, for producing all of that. There are still some questions that need answering, and I'll return to those. But there's a new draft deed for the new trustees to authorise, and that'll allow the trust to be up and running. Once it's up and running with the nominal sum of £1 in it, we can then go to and present with them all the paperwork and ask them to release the money. And based on my previous conversations with them, provided they've got that authorised by a signatory on record, then they should be able to release the money to us. Some of the outstanding questions are the charitable status of the trust, and my analysis and my investigation so far implies that actually, because of the relatively low turnover of the trust on an annual basis, means we don't have to register with the Charities Commission. It's up to us as to whether we think that's appropriate, and we will look at the pros and cons of that, and that'll include me engaging with the Charities Commission just to work with them in terms of whether there's benefit in doing so. There are benefits in being aligned with the Charities Commission, but the turnover of this is such that we certainly wouldn't have to submit our accounts, and we'll need to look as to whether there's benefit in actually registering. But we will make sure we do that properly, and then we'll take that decision as trustees and revert to the parish council accordingly. I think that's all I could say at this stage, but happy to take some questions.
That's great, Sheepy. Many
Just
thanks indeed for all the work. Paul, over to you.
Just on that last point, is there a VAT issue at all with the charity status or otherwise?
Paul, I'm afraid you broke up then just at the time.
Sorry, is the VAT, does the charity status, is that affected by, or sorry, is the VAT position affected by the charity status? So difficult to see if there's any downsides, but the upside could be the VAT exempt as a charity.
Yeah, could be, and those are the sort of things we'd need to assess before we go with it, Paul. But it's a very good point. I don't have the answer.
Okay.
Other thoughts or views?
Sounds very good. Very thorough.
Yep.
Well done.
Well done, everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, I got to the point. I mean, obviously, I've been, like with John, quite involved with this for some months now, and brilliant piece of work and some good conversations had, I think, and we've got other pots and bits and bobs of monies we're going to try and release that are available. I think the one from one of the fates or something a couple of years ago with Angela and some stuff. So I think it'll be a good trust with new trustees, some old, some new, well controlled, lots of protocols. And my view, when I saw the paper on the online the last couple of days, was I certainly would support it. So I don't know if there's a general view that we should
definitely
acknowledge that and fully support Sheepy behind it and do what we need to do in the next few weeks, months to make sure it all comes to fruition.
Yeah.
So big
so
thumbs up there.
I think my ambition then, Nick, would be with that sort of support from all of you, for which thank you. I suggest that Sheepy and I will liaise with the other trustees, make sure they're content with the trust deed, and go to the stage where we get it all signed off and present it to the parish council at the next meeting as a fait accompli, and just ask for formal minuted endorsement, which would then give you the basis on which to write to the bank, Nick.
Fantastic. And I think I do know the trustees, but I don't think everyone does. So I don't know, Sheepy, if you could just remind everyone of who the trustees are.
Yeah, sure. The trustees moving forward, the volunteers are myself and John, Rachel Sampson, Sharon from the Bell, and Margaret Morby.
Yeah. Brilliant. Good group. Sheepy and team, thank you. Well done. Brilliant. Thank you.
Yeah.
Good job.
Okay, back to the agenda then on any officers' reports. Don't think there's been any apart from what we've seen on we've just talked about. But
Nick, a quick verbal report, if I may, on the horse chestnut situation.
and I did.
In
Yes,
correspondence.
Ian. Just before you kick in, Ian, absolutely. Yeah. Is our footpath officer still with us?
Yeah.
He is, yeah.
Ah, brilliant. Okay, I haven't got him on my screen. Okay.
He's big enough.
Yeah, Ian.
All right, just very quickly, in the March minutes, I was due to get a meeting together in the village, which obviously hasn't happened. What I propose now is to write something for the Chearsley blog. Virtually all the chestnuts in and around the village are on private land, so any action is really down to the landowners. The obvious different situation is the big horse chestnut tree on the junction, and I've been talking with Paul and with Keith about buying a couple of pheromone traps. We've got a couple of suppliers which we've looked at. One called Harrod Horticultural, and the other company called Dragonfly, which you can get to through Amazon. You're looking at, for a couple of traps and the lures, about, I don't know, £50 worth of expenditure. They do need putting up by the end of this month, ideally. And we need a brave young man to go up a ladder to hang them in the trees. I'm a bit too old for that myself. And I did suggest we might approach our friendly fireman, Jay Gibson. He must know his way up and down ladders, and he's right on the doorstep anyway.
Borrow one of his fire engines.
So that's just a quick update on the horse chestnut tree situation.
So really, thanks, John. Ian, that's great. And the only thing now is we need to just nail the person going up the tree.
Yeah. I did have a brief word with him last year. I'll contact him and ask him if he would be willing to undertake it. He goes climbing up old buildings to look at barn owl nests, so he's used to that sort of thing.
Okay. So we'll leave that with you. Thanks, Ian.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
I don't know whether we just need to approve that expenditure just for good order.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
As backup, I mean, if Jay's for any reason reluctant, and I don't suppose he will be, my son's a fireman as well, so if there's a problem, give me a shout and I'll ask him.
Okay.
Oh, well done, Martin. Well done.
Great.
Sorry, just to finish, shall I order them, or is anyone else down to do that? I'm quite happy to order them.
Yeah, we'll leave it with you, Ian, I think.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
Done.
Okay, thank you.
Right.
And do we have, I'm just going to order my screen levels. Do we have our footpath officer with us?
We do,
Yeah.
yes.
Ah, there he is.
Actually.
Hello, Mr. Adams. And would you like to give us a quick update?
A quick update, yeah. I don't know if anybody's noticed, but we've managed to get Bucks County Council to put some steps in on footpaths 8 and 9. So,
Fantastic. I've had walking past, I've met so many walkers in the village who've said they're absolutely brilliant.
yeah, well, yeah, I went on their website and they did it when nobody else was working, which is amazing.
Incredible.
On top of that, obviously, we're trying to get some more gates done, but with the current situation, we can't get anything done. We had approval from landlords a while ago, from some that James Gibson gave us approval, but then, of course, we couldn't do it because it was too muddy. And now it's obviously the lockdown, so they can't do it. But I have had an email from him, and there's about 4 gates that we've now got permission to change. So he's going to get them on order. And as soon as they're allowed out, they'll come and fit them for us.
Brilliant.
Graham's just done the first cut of the footpaths for the grass, and obviously he's doing the greener sort of there as well. So yeah, we're just, it's a question of speaking to landlords, getting permission. Obviously, one of them we've had quite a lot of trouble getting any permissions, but
Well, I think we nailed James Gibson, haven't we?
yeah, James is okay, yeah.
Sorry?
James is fine. Yeah, he said we can do the one here. Yeah, where I am. Yeah.
Right.
John has been a little bit more interesting, John Lloyd.
Yes, I had an interesting hour and a half with him. Yeah. I think somebody must have upset him at some stage in this video. I don't know who.
I don't know if I've shared this story yet with the village or the parish council, but he wasn't very happy, Paul, about the report that went in about the house by the barn.
Well, the report came from the whole of the parish council, Nick.
No. I know it did. I'm pulling your leg.
I know, but this is an open meeting. I think just
yeah, no, it is an open meeting. If we cannot have some joviality and transparency, we're not the community council. I think we are. But no, I did have a conversation with him at the bottom of the hill. I just got back from Spain.
He's just come in on YouTube, by the way.
Yeah, great. Hello, John. Do you want to sign up now? Okay, here's the number. And I had a very good conversation with him, and I was very honest. And I said, we do things in a way in this village that are right and proper. Yeah, and the submission of that planning application and the response was absolutely spot on what it should have been. The fact that it doesn't serve your purposes immediately, I'm sorry, but we're here to represent the village, not you.
Yeah.
And then I said, and to sort of then sulk a little bit and sort of decide that actually I'm not going to give permission to have the gates done is not very grown up. But we left on very good terms, and I said to him, think about it in the next 5 or 6 weeks, and I'll give you a call, buy you a glass of wine, probably remotely now. We'll get there. And he was being a bit oversensitive. There you go. Okay, so I think well done, Anthony. Some really good work going on there, and you know, we're very appreciative in the village of those efforts and Ian, your efforts with the, you know, the wildlife and the trees and everything else. So thank you very much. An update on the expressway.
Nothing.
Okay.
We are on hold as we were 4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
I mean, there's been a bit of stuff about HS2 in the press recently, and it seems that's going ahead, but I've heard nothing more from our colleagues at the Expressway Group. Have gone very quiet for obvious reasons, and so nothing further to report, basically.
Great. Okay, thanks, John. A quick update on the financial position of the village hall, with or without rent from the parish council.
So I've done some analysis. We've actually got just over £14,000 in the bank. Last year, 12 months to today, we had income of 13,500, expenditure of 12,800, but a lot of that was one-off expenditure. So I think we're probably, you know, at the moment we've got zero income, and we're probably spending on average around £600 a month. So we're actually, we're not in bad shape, but I'm slightly, you know, I'm trying to make sure we've got enough reserves for any unexpected items. So I think it's better than I thought, because, you know, I looked at a headline figure of £1,000 a month, but actually when I did the analysis, you know, a lot of those were one-off items. So I think we're okay, but, you know, I'll keep you posted if we get any concerns or we get some unexpected bills.
So assuming that you're mothballing the property, which you normally do if you're in lockdown, which means turning off electric and utilities and everything, where's £600 going to?
I can show you the figures, but we don't turn we haven't turned everything off. And maybe, you know, we've turned the heating down. You know, we're still paying the fixed broadband costs. We got a lot of fixed costs. So, you know, insurance that came through £650. You know, we've got
for the year.
Yeah, that's for the year.
Yeah.
We've got maintenance. Yeah. So we get a number of these maintenance due for maintenance. So we've got a lot of maintenance items, fire, equipment, extinguisher checks, burglar alarms, fire alarms. So some of those things they're just recurring figures. So yeah, and we cut down the cleaning, but again, just not doing anything, not cutting, we could not cut the grass, not cut the hedges, but we're trying to maintain some of those things. So yeah, at the moment around 600, probably could come down a bit more. But as we've some things I think we just need to keep doing on the maintenance front. There is a big item that Antonia and I have been looking at in terms of the electricity bill and the feed-in tariff. We still don't have feed-in tariff working on solar panels, which has been a long-standing item. I won't bore you with the details, and Antonia's on it, but it's been an absolute nightmare dealing with Eon. So that will help get the electricity sorted out. We should be actually getting the benefit of feed-in from solar panels, and we're not. So there's things like that we need to bottom out.
Well, hopefully, if this lockdown is going the way they think it's going, the first people that will be back on the street will be the youngsters. So I'm assuming that Chuff will be able to restart.
That would be good, because they're obviously a major source of income for us.
I think in the meantime, obviously, it's batten down the hatches. I mean, even if the grass needs cutting, I'm sure the parish council would consider, I don't know, I'm talking out of turn here, but whether we could get Graham just to give the grass a quick cut to save money. I don't know.
I mean, at the moment, Graham does his, he does his normal monthly trim, so we haven't cut that back at the minute, and also some of the people, the cleaner, Graham, are getting income from us, and we are trying to follow government guidelines in terms of, not all their income. They're not on our payroll, so we can't do any furlough.
Are there any concessions we get from the government on business rates or lack of revenues or?
Yes, so we've had our rates were set to 0. So instead of being about £1,300, we got zero rate request for 2021, which is lovely. Right. I did, on the basis that we're paying rates, I did apply for the £10,000 grant, but that was swiftly rejected by AVDC, which is probably reasonable, because we're not a conventional business as is.
Yeah. Okay, well, let's stick with it. Any other comments at all for Keith?
Nope.
No?
Yeah. Let's just hope it doesn't go on too long.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Keith. Well done, sir.
Nick, sorry.
Yeah.
No, I just wanted to say, no, not for Keith, and but just to say that another village institution, and the chairman is with us tonight, the cricket club, face a similar situation. Our income has been pretty much reduced to 0. We've trimmed costs. Laz has done a great work. We've got to obviously maintain not the square for matches every weekend, but there is maintenance work that's necessary. So with the committee, and Ian, obviously the chairman is with us, we sent out an appeal to our membership this week just to say that we're not demanding subscriptions, membership fees, but on a voluntary basis. If we're not demanding, because there's no cricket happening, but if people were happy to pay their subs or make a donation, then it would be much appreciated. And I think it's fair to say, Ian, we've had a very positive response.
That's
a
right,
big
yeah.
issue for the cricket club is our fundraising program, and we have classic cars penciled in September, and well, we simply don't know. But thus far, I think we've, as Keith and the team have done at the hall, costs have been scaled back to a reasonable level. We have fixed costs too, and we've asked our members support us, and thus far we've had a positive response. But we've just got to keep on it, really.
Well done, John. Good
Ian,
stuff.
anything you'd like to add?
No, just the response has been very, very positive, both from players, parents of juniors, VPs and other club members. And we hope that as soon as the government and the ECB give us a green light, we shall be out playing cricket. Just galls me at the moment that the ground is looking absolutely wonderful. We're keeping that up to scratch, and we've got glorious weather, but no cricket.
Yeah, no.
Get galling for a Yorkshireman.
Okay.
It rains in Yorkshire, doesn't it?
Thanks, Ian. Okay, go around on my screen anyway for items of information. It would be Keith first.
Nothing from me.
John Lewis in the corner.
Nothing from me. Just a reminder, we've got an additional parishioners question time on there, and I do have one further question when you're ready for it, Nick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Excuse me. Going to Jules.
Yeah, I just wanted to raise the question of the skips, and whether it's worth discussing that or not, whether it's worth getting a skip in the village for, I mean, definitely we'd have to do it under my idea obviously is come from Margaret Morby's suggestion of having a skip. So I made some tentative inquiries with Bucks Recycling about skip hire. They said they would do a deal because it's for a community project. And obviously it would need to be tightly controlled. So initially I thought maybe a garden waste skip, so a green waste skip that we could have in a central location for a very short window of time, 24 hours or 48 hours. We can let everyone in the village know it's going to be there for that period of time, just for green waste, so they can go and take their clippings or their stuff that they would be bonfiring, because obviously we can't have bonfires, and then it could be taken away. Obviously, John Howard came back with the suggestion, because I think Margaret initially was suggesting a mixed waste skip, and we could definitely do that as well. A 10-yard skip would be £260 plus VAT. And again, I think if we decided to go down this road, which would give the villagers an opportunity to dispose of some waste, but it would need to be very carefully controlled, and it would definitely need to be on a very tight time frame to stop all and sundry coming by, dumping all their rubbish. So I just wanted to put that up there for suggestion, because I kind of think we did put the precept up, so we can afford to do it. In my opinion, it would be a community thing. It would enable people to maybe go out and trim the verges outside their houses. I walked down to the church the other day and I noticed some on the way down there could do a bit of a trim, but obviously there's nowhere for anyone to put any of this stuff, so there's no inclination, I guess, to do it. And also up my road, someone had trimmed their mowed their garden, and they dumped a whole box full of grass in the gateway of John Lloyd's field. I saw it, I was like, oh my gosh. Anyway, I think they saw me looking, so it was swiftly removed. But we don't want that. We don't want that. We don't want people just doing stuff willy-nilly. So that was the suggestion.
Okay.
Do you have any ideas on location?
Well, I think it needs to be a central place. Obviously, people are going to have to travel, so it needs to be kind of in the middle. I was thinking maybe not the pub car park, but maybe the road opposite the pub. I did think about maybe putting sort of broom and stuff down there, but obviously then you're encountering the whole people touching different things. And obviously we just have to ask people to be respectful and just say, we've put this in place for you to dispose of your garden waste. Could you make sure you leave it clean and tidy? But then I'm happy to go down there with a dustpan and brush and sweep up if I need to.
I think
really the green is a good place.
I think the idea is a sound idea. I'm not sure about the timings. The timings and the control, and I wonder whether we also need to take advice from the police or Aylesbury Vale District Council or whatever, because what we're doing is encouraging people to come out with materials of whatever we decide and put them into this skip and then sort of disappear. And we've got no way of, when we're in a lockdown and we're looking at people isolating or people not going out unless it's absolutely essential, I think we might be in danger of being accused of encouraging what is a great idea, but in the timing for me is just worrying.
What you mean, having a short window of time to do
well,
it?
Not that, but the fact that we are going to put something in a village and we're the best one in the world, people will try and put stuff in it. And then we're encouraging people to come out of their houses and their gardens to get there and put it in. And
yeah, is it an essential trip? That's the question, isn't it?
And it's a real dilemma for me, Jules. If it was as part of the freedom within the exit strategy at the appropriate time, I think fantastic. We will cover ourselves a bit more, but I think with the word is 3 weeks just to do not go anywhere, I think we're in danger of pissing off the government, if I can put it that way.
I think it's a valid point, Nick.
And Ashenden, by
I
the
think it was
way,
a good idea, but also I think that's a valid point.
yeah, I think, well, that's my dilemma. And Ashenden have actually done the same. That Nish was saying to me earlier, that there was a move to do the same in Ashenden and potentially Long Crendon. They've sort of taken the same view that it's just a bit early.
I find myself coming down on your side of the fence, Nick. I mean, I would love nothing more to have somewhere to take the grass cuttings and stuff, and I'm sure other people are in the same boat. But you know, is it essential? You can't really argue it at the moment, can you?
No, as I say, I don't want to be the doomster because I agree with the idea in principle, but I think there will come a day soon where we can do it, Jules, and I just don't think it's right now. Sorry.
No, it's fine. It's fine. I wanted to bring it up a discussion because I have to say, I still think it's a good idea. I think that people, particularly with the weather, the sunshine and showers, I don't know about everyone else, but we're mowing the lawn probably at least once a week, sometimes twice a week. And obviously we've got a compost heap. We're composting, but there will come a point where people don't know where to put anything. But that's fine. That is absolutely fine. It's just I wanted to bring that to the table.
What may help, and I don't know if this is going to happen, but I'm sure if I approached Maureen Gillis, who's the custodian of the allotments for the church, and there's 2 or 3 very good composting areas on the allotment, Robert and guys, and if I was to ask if it was possible for people to be able to take their grass clippings down into the allotment, I don't know. That might
Grass
be.
isn't any good for compost. If you have too much grass, is it too much nitrogen it produces?
Yeah, it's not good. No.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm just going on the people that look at. I haven't got a clue. But
it's the same issue, Nick, isn't it? It's encouraging people to go to a central point.
Yeah.
And it's not essential.
Yeah. So I think we'll knock that one on the head immediately and say I need to go and breathe some nitrogen or something.
Okay, so we're not knocking on the head, we're just pushing it
Delaying.
to time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, actually, I mean, there's going to be another announcement in 3
Okay.
weeks' time, isn't there, by the government, I think, on lockdown. So, you know,
Perfect.
maybe we revisit it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Thank you, Jules. Good point. Paul.
I have a feeling it might be the same as John was about to mention. Did you get that email about the walnut tree? Was that where you were going to mention?
That was the one, but you can pick it up now, Paul. Yes.
Okay.
You're going to say who it's from?
Yeah, from Daniel and Tessa Grist. It was just they were asked about the walnut tree approaching the green at the top of Shapps Lane. Ian, do you know that one at all?
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're asking if it's is it due to be trimmed?
Well, I mean, it could be trimmed any time as long as it's the right time. I suppose the big issue is it dangerous, overhanging, or causing other problems? Somebody needs to have a proper look at it, make an inspection of it.
Mm-hmm. Could you take a look at it as well? That'd be great.
Part of my exercise.
Yep. We'll pass you on the way when we're doing a planning meeting.
You know where it is, Ian, don't you? It used to be where the red telephone box was going.
Yeah, I know where it is. Yeah.
That I get that in. Okay, thank you, Paul. Thanks, Paul. John Howard.
No, just Any more news on the silver birch, Paul?
No, sorry, I missed it on the tree bit, didn't I, earlier? No, the oak, as I mentioned earlier, has been planted. The silver birch is unavailable at the moment due to the, well, it's just unavailable due to the coronavirus thing. It seems to be a lot of excuse for lots of things not happening, but apparently it is just unavailable.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they want to get that in as soon as possible, and obviously just 2 buckets of water instead of 1, guys, it does get finally put in. But
well, I gave our oak tree its first drink this morning.
Brilliant, brilliant.
It was very
really, I think it's quite a opportune time, I think, to plant something like that. You know, when you know we've got everything that's going on at the moment. It's just nice to see some new life within the village.
Well, I mean, walking back down Chiltern Road this morning, a glorious sunny morning, I think those 2 trees are going to look absolutely fantastic.
They are. I totally agree. Yeah.
Just a point of order, actually, Paul. I mean, I remember earlier in this meeting you were mentioning the need to use your legs to walk up the hill with a pail of water to do the oak tree.
Sorry, my speaker's gone off.
Has it? It's just that I can't see you on the roster.
No, I was saying that John and I had been spared. The bottom of the village are spared.
Well, I think John Howard has been a wimp, because if I'd have been doing the roster, I'd have had you having 2 buckets of water over a stick on your neck coming up.
Now, I think I respect the vulnerability of some of my fellow council members, Mr. Chairman.
Absolutely.
As will you.
Splendid colleague, John.
Let's not go there.
Just then, Robert and Helen, any points before we disappear?
Nothing from me.
Ian and
No, thank you, Nick.
Okay, Ian and Anthony.
No more from me, thanks.
No.
Thank you all. And just to confirm, the date and time next meeting will be Monday the 18th of May at 7:30. Watch this space, I think, as to where it may be. We will see how things progress with the government, I think. But I think, enjoyed the meeting today. Well done, Keith. You want to make a point?
Yeah, just to seek feedback. The recording will remain on YouTube. I can leave it there or delete it, or try and edit the first half hour, which is when nothing happens. But do you want me to leave it up there for
Yeah, I think so. I think it should be, again, with transparency and a record of things going on. And I was just going to say thanks to those people who may have joined us. It'd be lovely to find out who they are, because, you know, maybe they could follow us on Instagram and Twitter then.
In actual fact, is there a way of recording, of keeping this recorded for the future?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think we should record it. And
no, it's the recording can just will remain there until it gets deleted.
oh, cool.
I think
So-
if I might just suggest, Nick, and it's really a comment for all those who are watching on the stream, if there's any there who have managed to stick with us this long, any comments on the stream and how it appeared to you would be very useful for us. I know Tony Babington had trouble with volume. Question, did others have trouble with volume? Any other thoughts or suggestions that might be useful for us if we do it again?
Yeah, okay. And we
Yeah,
maybe
really
get
good
that
point.
into the minutes then, Helen, to record that and ask people if they can feed back into us.
Personally, I wouldn't actually leave it as a recording on the YouTube. I think we have our meetings. There are minutes there which I think record the outcome. Not sure there's any purpose to be gained by having the total recording. That's my
Well,
first.
let's give it a shot, Paul, and then take a view at the next meeting. I'm pleased to see on the screen Martin Johnson Sheepy is still with us. So again, a big thank you, Martin, to you. You're looking a bit blue. Is that for the NHS, or have you been drinking vodka losers or something?
Vodka losers.
Aha, good man. So again, thanks, Sheepy, for all that input. Well, ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. I think it was an excellent meeting, and it's pretty much good night from me.
Yeah, thanks.
Good night from me.
It's good night from him.
Bye.
Good night all.
Bye, everybody.
Good night.
See you at the bell.
Bye.